Botox Cosmetic, out of botulinum toxin A, FDA approved for over 20 years. So, talk to your specialist to see if Botox Cosmetic is right for you.
For full prescribing information, including boxed warning, visit BotoxCosmetic.com or call 877-351-0300.
Remember to ask for Botox Cosmetic by name. To see for yourself and learn more, visit BotoxCosmetic.com. That's BotoxCosmetic.com.
When your gut feels off, your whole day can feel off. Activia probiotic yogurts and dailies are a quick, easy, and tasty way to up your gut health game every day. They're deliciously smooth and creamy and packed with billions of live and active probiotics. Your gut is where it all begins, so start with Activia. Enjoying Activia twice a day for 2 weeks as part of a balanced diet and healthy lifestyle can help reduce the frequency of minor digestive discomfort.
The Dental Download podcast is your source for insight from conversations with fellow dentists, specialists, and leaders in the industry. With new episodes every Monday morning, I'm your host, Dr. Haley. Let's get into this week's episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Dental Download podcast. If you are one of the awesome people that watches the video version, you might notice we're upgraded a little bit. I upgraded my setup so we have an even better webcam going for our recordings, which just means that even the promotional clips that everyone gets to see on Instagram are even better quality too. So I'm very excited about that, and all that is possible because of the support from you all with listening to the show and supporting our sponsors. So thank you again to all of you as we're going into even more of this season of gratitude and reflection. I am incredibly grateful and just looking back at a wonderful 2024 and even more excited for what 2025 has in store. But that whole reflective new year, that's not the topic of this episode. We're going to talk about that later in December in a separate episode. This is an episode that I think is so exciting, and I still can't believe I even get to make episodes about this topic because I started this podcast back as a pre-dental student. All throughout dental school, I've been posting episodes, and now through 6 months of work, I really can't believe it almost. But I wrote many pages of an outline today. I came prepared this time. That way we can cover all of the good stuff in this week's episode. About 6 months into working as an associate dentist, I am in Southwest Michigan. I would call where I live rural adjacent, and then where I practice fairly rural. So we're going to talk about the procedures that I'm doing, what's going well, what's going difficult, and overall how I'm liking things, what's been different from getting into practice over the first couple months to now. And we also go through personal life updates, financial updates, really like the whole thing. So if you find this to be interesting, make sure you go back and listen to my first month of work and my 3 month of work check-in, because now we're at 6 months and I don't think I'm going to make another one until we're at 1 year. But every single solo episode, which is every other week, if you're used to the flow of the show by now, I do a little check-in segment at the beginning of every solo episode, kind of what's going on in life. So you get tidbits of things like this, but this is really the one-stop shop for a long-form, deep dive into all of the updates. So without further ado, I'm going to do a quick little intro because this whole episode is pretty much a life update. So for life updates, I did want to share something fun and memorable that happened this week. I actually got a snow day from work this past Thursday, which I never thought would happen, to just unexpectedly get a day off of work as a dentist. But it was pretty cool, and I used the day to get a lot done around the house, cleaning, several loads of laundry, got a lot of stuff done for social media, and I can't even remember what I did, but I was busy from 8 a.m. into the evening. I basically worked, just not as a dentist. So that was really nice to have unexpected free time. You know, that list of stuff that you know you should do at some point, but you never have time. That's when I got to do all that. So I was very grateful, and that was a fun little memorable moment because I doubt that's going to happen very often in my life. So it was very cool to get an unexpected day off of work. My recommendation of the week would definitely be, again, if you're watching the video version, decorate for the holidays. I clearly love to decorate for Christmas, and it's extra special that this is my first place living post-grad, so not having roommates. I live with my fiance, but that's not like a roommate. And it's our first place together, so it's been very special to get to decorate. It's my first time having like my own Christmas tree. All of these are very exciting things. But if you don't celebrate Christmas or you don't really have the ability to decorate wherever you live, I would say one thing anybody can do, because YouTube is free, look up Christmas ambiance or holiday ambiance videos on YouTube. I like the ones that have like the smooth jazz to them, or you can do like the crackling Yule log. And it just gives such cozy vibes while you're maybe reading or relaxing. Or I even love it while I'm just doing tasks like writing the outline for this episode. I had some Christmas jazz ambiance on the TV, and it really sets the mood right. So that is my recommendation for the week going through December and all the fun holiday season. My motivator this week has been lots of special time with family. We had a Christmas party right after Thanksgiving with my dad's side of the family. So we did Thanksgiving with my mom's side, Christmas party with my dad's side last weekend. And then this weekend, I had a Christmas party with my mom's side. So I've been going home a lot and seeing family a lot. And my parents have the cutest puppy. I obviously love seeing my parents, but if anyone has like a family pet, I'm sure you understand. You can FaceTime your siblings and your parents, your cousins, your aunts and uncles. You can feel connected to them even when you're not physically in person. But it's not really the same with a pet. So I got to see my parents' puppy, and it just makes me so happy, and it makes me really want my own pet. But we are not going to be getting a dog anytime soon, because with us both being at the office for so long, there's no one to take care of it, and we don't really want to pay a bunch of money to have someone take care of it. So for now, we're just in a standstill until we feel like we can justify spending a lot of money on pet care to help raise and take care of a little dog. But that's kind of where we're at when it comes to that so far. But the actual motivator this week, I got off topic because I'm just in a chatty mood, which is perfect for when you're recording a podcast. Let me tell you, I'm just so happy these past couple weeks because of all that family time and just the holiday season in general and wrapping up a year at work. It's been such a successful year for the team. I've only been there for half of it since I started in June, but it's just good vibes all around. Like the holiday season, patients are excited. There's so much to chat about with them, with like their holiday traditions and what they're up to. Pretty weather with like the right amount of snow where it's not hazardous to drive in, but it's pretty. And today is like a very sunny, warm day. So that's kind of refreshing because it's been pretty cold and gloomy here. So just like so much gratitude and happiness surrounding me. And I'm really just soaking all that in. And I really just couldn't be happier right now. So of course, that's providing me immense motivation from all that gratitude. But let's get into the main topic of this week's episode, 6 months as a dentist. So I'm following the same format that I used for the other check-in episodes. That way, if you're listening to them in order, it will make sense. So I first talked about the amount of procedures, like the scope of procedures that I did as a dentist now compared to when I was a dental student. But now we're really comparing it more to my first months of practice. So in my 3-month episode, so 3 months ago, I said I had seen around 700 patients, which includes exams. So this is basically like patient encounters. It could be the same patient multiple times. It could be just a periodic exam, or it could be a really big intensive procedure. This is just like patient encounters. So I have seen over 1,500 patients. But back at my 3-month check-in, it was 700. So more than double, which means the pace is kind of ramping up because it didn't just double in 3 months' time. So that's a good thing. And reminder that back in dental school in 4 years, which granted you're really only doing patient care for 2.5 years, 2 years, I saw 400 in 2.5, 2-ish years of all 4 years of dental school. And now I have seen over 1,500. And I love to make that point, not to talk about my numbers versus other people's numbers as a dentist or as a student, but just for scale, that it's okay if you feel like your exposure in dental school is not as much as you want it to be. It's more about quality over quantity and using all of your experiences to learn as much as possible. Whether you have a lot of them or a little of them, you can still gain a lot from something.
and knowing that you're just going to have so much more repetition in the real world that it's not worth stressing over getting one extra crown in dental school or something. It's not going to make or break your ability as a dentist, because the scale to which you do dentistry in school is just so tiny to real world that I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but that's like the best thing that's coming to my mind right now. So don't stress too much in dental school is my point if you're a student currently listening to this. I'm looking at my report from Eaglesoft right now, so I'm trying to skim through things here. So I've done a lot of surgical extractions, pediatric extractions. I've done a lot of fillings. I've done actually more crowns almost than like class 2s. I haven't done any perio work. I don't do any cleanings. I don't do any perio maintenances, which is very different than some associateships, and I'm very grateful for that. Not that I'm like above doing prophies by any means. I just think it's not a good use of our skill set, and our hygienists are definitely better at perio treatment than I am, and I would rather them be the ones doing it. So I'm very grateful that we have an awesome hygiene team at my office to do that, so that the doctors can focus on doing our type of care. And yeah, I just think it's interesting that I've done almost as many crowns as I have fillings. We've done obviously more fillings. I've done probably like double the amount of fillings as I have crowns, but I've still done a lot of crowns. And it's just crazy to think that I think I did like 10 in dental school, and I've done over 10 times that in 6 months of working. It's pretty wild. And then actually it's interesting because they have all the production dollars next to like the procedure type. So crowns are definitely my highest producing procedure, as you would expect. But actually a really large amount of my production has come from periodic exams compared to, again, fillings, because those don't pay that well. So it's interesting because I think when I'm looking at my schedules coming up for the week and everything, I don't even necessarily go in and count periodic exams as production I'm going to be getting that week, because we don't divvy up who's doing which periodic exams. I just kind of go into the ones as I'm available, so I wouldn't even know what to count in advance. So it's just kind of extra production on my schedule, and I don't think of it as like mine versus other people's, but technically when I do the exam, it's under my name and I write the note and I get the production for that. But it's interesting that I'm getting a good amount of production from that compared to things like fillings that fill up my schedule more. So something to keep in mind as you're looking at maybe how things are divvying up in your own office if you have multiple doctors. Wow, that was a lot. That was 2 notes, like 2 lines in my outline, but I think I talked about that for a while. So next is the current hardest procedure for me. So previous times, I think I've talked about crowns, I've talked about surgical extractions, and this time we are back to the pediatrics. Man, I was doing really good at this lately. I had a hard time with peds probably like mid-summer, just because we didn't get a ton of experience with kids at school by any means. So I kind of had my baseline way I did things, and it was just not good enough for the more challenging kids. But then I got some tips from one of the associate doctors, which mainly it was just like how to get through the anesthesia portion of the appointment as smoothly as possible without the kids freaking out. And she gave me some good tips, which generally worked most of the time, and that's made the past several months really smooth. But this past week I had a lot of kids, and it was so discouraging because there was one that like we really wanted to help, but we just could not get her to calm down. And I think if I was better about my anesthesia technique with kids and distraction and speed and all those sort of things, it could have been different, because obviously she's going to go see a pediatric dentist now, and they're probably going to be able to do what I couldn't, which I know is why we have specialists. But it's so discouraging knowing that I couldn't help someone that really needed it, especially when it's a kid. You know, they're in even different circumstances than adults, if you understand what I'm trying to say from that perspective. So I really want to get a lot better with my treatment for pediatrics. I just want to be one of those like pediatric dental whizzes that's so quick and so good. The kids don't even like know what's going on, and it's so smooth and simple for them, and then it's over and not traumatic, and the parents are happy and the kids happy. Like, of course that's ideal, but sometimes that doesn't happen. And I just feel so bad when we have to refer out, because most of these are kids on a very specific insurance that the pediatric offices don't take. Only one place takes it, and it's far away from most of the families, and they book out for months. So like if we can't help them and the kid is sort of in pain or potential to have pain in those several months, I just feel so guilty because we really want to help them and we can't. So that's something I definitely am going to focus on in the new year, in addition to other things clinically, but pediatrics is something I really want to improve on. And the next topic is upcoming CE. So I'm really looking forward to, and if I'm being honest, a smidge nervous for my implant CE program that I signed up for next year that is coming up at the end of March. That is a time I picked purely from my own personal schedule. The team and boss didn't really have a specific time that I could or couldn't do the course. I just thought that gave enough time for notice for time off, because it is a whole week-long course that I'm stepping away from work. And also it just was best for my personal life, like things I have going on earlier in the year. It just made more sense. And I liked the timing, because then it'll be April and hopefully we can have cherry pick some cases up to that point that I can have on my schedule to get going for placing implants in April. That way, when we reach the halfway point of the year, I'll hopefully be in a steady flow where I have at least a couple implants a month on my schedule. I don't know what's a realistic amount to expect, like if I'll be doing them as frequently as I'm doing traditional crowns right now, for example. It's definitely a saying that goes, and I think really applies with continuing education, is that once you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And that's like, I went to my crown CE and then I was a lot more confident with my ability to do a crown. So therefore I was planning more crowns when I was seeing all these fractured teeth during exams. Same thing's probably going to happen with implants. I'm going to notice more candidates for implants and probably be planning more implants than I maybe do now. I don't feel like I'm under treatment planning, but you know, once you feel more confident to do something yourself, you're probably more apt to plan it more. That's just how it is, I think. So it'll be interesting to see to what extent I'm actually placing and utilizing the skills that I'm learning at this course. But the course itself is through Implant Pathway. That's the name of it if you want to look it up. I'm doing the 1-week fast track program. So it's parts 1 through 3 all in one bundle with a new grad discount. Part 1 is self-paced I have to do before I go, and that's about 30 hours. So that's going to take up a good bit of time, and I need to go through my calendar and like dedicate when I'm going to do those, because time is going to fly by in January and February, because I do have some personal stuff going on with different life events for family and friends. So I just want to make sure that I'm being fully dedicated to that time when I am studying those hours, because it's a big investment of a course. I'm really fortunate that my office supports our CE and they are going to be paying for the course for me. It's an investment in the office and in myself, which I'm incredibly grateful for. And I don't want to misuse the opportunity and not take it to its full advantage. So I want to really diligently watch the content and take notes on my iPad and come with any questions for the course or any different cases. I can use some of the cases from the doctor in our office that does implants and be as prepared as possible is essentially my goal when it comes to that CE course. But speaking of goals, through our coaching program at work, and pardon if you hear any noises as I'm flipping through my little workbook of notes, but we have monthly meetings at work and with our coaching program, and we get to set goals. So I have my goals from some of those months, which is interesting because I thought I had more than these. So let me just quickly open it and see what we're looking at here. Which month are these? Okay, I have September through now. So I want to do a little bit of check-in on my goals. I know in May, so we're going to go from May to September, so we're going to make a big jump. But in May, I went to their annual meeting with the coaching group where there was multiple other practices there. And I think I talked about this in a podcast. If you're curious, like what all that's about, go back to our podcast in May and listen to that one. But I went there, and that was my first exposure to the coaching program that they work for, as well as really spending a good dedicated weekend with the whole team. It wasn't just the doctors that went, it was the entire team plus the doctors. And I was able to see how the office is going to kind of run and how the philosophy of the coaching program is, and kind of figure out my own personal goals as I was starting my career with them the next month. And I don't have that with me right now, but I know off the top of my head that some of the key things I wanted to work on was communication, treatment planning, and this word you're going to hear come up a lot when I'm talking about my goals month to month at work that we're kind of reflecting on to get us to where we are 6 months in now for this episode. But boldness is the word. And really being confident and honest with patients about where they're at, not being so worried about offending people or hurting their feelings, and knowing that they deserve to know what's going on because maybe no one's ever told them before because they don't want to make them feel bad, or maybe someone thinks, well, they don't have the money to do anything about it anyways, so I'm just not going to tell them that this better treatment exists to help them, or that they would be a good candidate for this kind of treatment. So again, it's that honesty, that transparency, that boldness, and that's probably going to come up in a lot of these goals. But I remember that was a big thing I was even thinking about 6 months ago before starting work. So I have my September start of the month meeting reflections. I wanted to improve my skills with crowns and with the kids. So I do think I improved my skills with the kids, as I said earlier, but there's just some that are still hard. Like I think the general patient population for pediatrics I have definitely improved in, but the most challenging kids, there's definitely room for growth there. And then improving my skills for crowns, that certainly happened. And I think going to that CE really taught me some good tangible takeaways when it comes to CEREC in-house crowns and best ways to prep those. And that just translated really well into my actual patient care. And then the other thing I had for September was being better at my communication with the treatment coordinators and the assistants, rather than leaving the assistants confused and then therefore they don't communicate things well to the treatment coordinators, and basically just being more present for those interactions. That way my clinical plan is communicated well to the treatment coordinator, therefore the patient understands what's all happening when it comes time for the financials. Because sometimes it seems like the patient understands things, but then if the treatment coordinator misunderstands from the assistant, then the patient can go and get confused because the treatment planner might be saying something different than what we had talked about before. And that all comes back to me and my own misdoings because I didn't communicate clearly enough to the assistant to then communicate to the treatment coordinator. So that was something I worked on in September, and I think I did a good job of that. And I wanted to work in October to be more bold. It's going to come up like every month, you guys, and plan for total health for patients, like full state of ideal, not just the thing that's bothering them the most or the thing that has to be fixed now. Anything that needs to be fixed, just telling them straight up, even if it's 10 crowns, that stinks financially for them. That's hard, but it doesn't stink because if they actually get them all done, then they don't have problems next time. It's probably worse for 10 times that they come in, that each time they come, you pick a new tooth that needs a crown. Just tell them everything, especially if it's your first time meeting them. I had trouble with this, just feeling I don't want to be overselling. I don't want to get a bad rap as the new doctor, but you just have to. You have to be honest with people, and that's something I've really been working on, not letting my own emotions get in the way of what the patients deserve. And that's like a big like mind blow thing if you really think about it. Not letting your own personal barriers to what you don't feel comfortable communicating happen at the expense of the patient's best interest and health and wellness, which is them knowing every single thing that is wrong and should be fixed for optimal health and long-term stable dental health, dentition. And again, we look at more than literally just the teeth. So their sleep, their airway, everything like that, including the teeth. So it's a lot. It's a lot for someone a few months out of school to think about, but I don't like to think of myself in that way. Well, like I'm new and I'm just a few months out of school. Like I can worry about that later. Like I just gotta get faster at my class twos. Like, no, I'm past that. Procedure speed is good. And even if it wasn't, you can do that simultaneously while working on your personal self and your communication skills and your mental barriers. Those are two separate entities between clinical skills and personal communication skills, and you could work on those simultaneously. I'm just thankful that I have more ability to work on the communication skills because, generally speaking, I feel like my clinical skills are pretty solid for the scope that I'm currently doing because I'm really practicing dental school level dentistry at this point. For October, I wanted to get better about using more analogies, which honestly, I haven't really done this. This is something I think of when I leave an exam and I'm like, oh, I should have said this because that would have really made it click for the patient. Or like when I'm driving to and from work, I think of really good analogies, but then I never use them. And I don't know, I think it's just because it's not some way I naturally would communicate in real life from person to person. So it doesn't come up in my mind when I'm trying to talk to patients during an exam, but I do still want to keep working on it. But these are some good analogies or just phrases that can help open patients' minds when it comes to treatment plan acceptance. It's never going to be a cheaper investment than today. The cost is only going to go up when it gets worse, which is going to cost you more of your time and more of your money. Another good analogy is when the patient's like, oh, I need 2 crowns and a couple fillings. Well, can I just do the fillings now and the crowns like next time? We can talk about it next time, like 6 months from now, they mean. Or, well, which crown should I do now? And it's like, well, if you have multiple cavities and things going on, you can't just like pick one. So that's what you're thinking in your head. It's like, no, you need to do all of them. So a good way to explain that to them is your car has 4 flat tires. Which tire would you want to fix? And they're going to look at you like you're crazy because they have 4 flat tires. If you fix one, it's not really going to do anything. You can't drive. So explaining it like that, like your car needs everything fixed. It's not just one thing is worse than the other. You won't function well until everything is fixed and working in unison. And then the other one that we talk about a lot at work is if your mouth was like your house, your whole house is on fire right now. Maybe you're just noticing the smoke coming from the kitchen. For example, my lower left molar hurts, but then we do an exam and we see 15 other problems. Say the whole house is on fire and you can't just fix the smoke coming from the kitchen because everything else is going to keep burning till there's nothing left. You're just not noticing the other parts of the house that are on fire. So that's a good way to kind of open their mind to like, this is a bigger issue at hand. It's not just the one thing at a time. So that's what I was thinking about at the end of October in our meeting. And at the start of November, so last month, my goal was every patient is a new patient. So again, I said something I'm really struggling with and working on and working through is just being the new doctor and doing these periodic exams on patients, with patients, and seeing problems and work to be done and things to be improved. Like every patient in our practice doesn't have perfect optimal health by any means because the world doesn't. And when they're coming in for their recare and you see they come every 3 months, they come every 6 months, you think in your head as part of one of the doctors on this team, well, the other doctors haven't treated these teeth yet, so maybe I'm thinking of something wrong and these teeth actually don't need new fillings or don't need crowns. Or maybe I think, well, the other doctors have probably already mentioned this 100 times and the patient just won't do it. So why would I mention it? So either of those scenarios, in my head, I have self-limitations where I don't want to give this patient the ideal treatment plan because of fear of how they will react towards me. And again, we've talked about that earlier in the episode. That's my problem. That's not their problem, and it should not affect their health. So me saying these things, like, this is like internal to myself. I need to say it and believe it because I don't always, to the fullest extent, 100% every single day, live that out. Like, I'm actively working on this as we're speaking. So if someone has pain or like a super obvious cracked tooth, it's a no-brainer for me. I obviously address it. But you know, those people where they have like 12 old crowns and then everything else is amalgams with fractures on it, and they're fairly old, and you're like, oh, like, should you redo every tooth in this person's mouth at that age? And again, that's not fair to not tell them the ideal scenario and kind of the direction their teeth are going. If you don't intervene, they are going to break down, and then you are going to have more problems at some point. We don't have a crystal ball to say when that day is going to be, but wouldn't you rather know in this next phase of your life, retiree patient, that you have stable teeth and you're going to be functioning well and proud of your smile, and you're not going to have to worry about your teeth anymore? Like, that's the kind of conversation you have to get people to be interested in like a full mouth rehab case. And that's something I don't do enough or to the fullest scale that I know that I should. So it's definitely something that I'm working on, as I said, so that's seeing every patient as a new patient. Because as a new patient exam, I feel like as a doctor, it's easy to feel the permission to give someone a comprehensive plan. Versus at a periodic exam, I don't feel, or I perceive, a barrier of not being able to give a comprehensive plan because they had that chance already. Because maybe they were a new patient 2 years ago, or maybe they were a new patient 30 years ago, and they still deserve to get that experience. But I take it from the perspective of I don't want to be off-putting to them and over-treating them in their mind. So I put that barrier on myself and can be limited in what I plan during those periodic exams. And I don't think that's right, and that's something I'm really trying to work on. So for 2024 December, the current month that we're in, I underlined it in big letters on this paper. Personal goal is to continue to be bold and work on being more bold. So basically, everything from the fall to now, I just want to be a better communicator and be more honest and bold with my patients. And it's not easy, and it's something that just because I get better at it doesn't mean I'm never working on it. Like, even our owner doctor, who's a phenomenal communicator, he's still improving and working on it. Over 10 years into practice, over 10 years into being good at communicating. It's a skill you're always working on, and there's always new and better ways to connect with people. So it's not something that's ever going to go away, but I think the particular things that I'm working on are going to keep evolving, and I definitely will share them with you. Okay, we're only on page 2 of my 4 pages of notes, you guys, and we're 32 minutes in. But let's call this a saga. This is a long episode. It's 6 months of life we're recapping and letting you know where we got to. So hopefully you are enjoying a nice commute to work, or maybe you already got to work and then now on your way home you're going to have to listen to the rest of this, but hopefully you're intrigued. So now we're going to talk about my kind of progression in work from months ago to now. So in November and December, we worked a lot less. And it's interesting because October and September were my highest producing months by far. And November was my lowest producing month by far. And December will probably be similar or maybe even lower. We'll have to see how the month shakes out. And I'm talking about production because I'm paid on production. Other than June, of course, my first month working because I only worked 2 weeks, but full months of work and, fully into the dentisting thing. October and September were the highest, whereas November and likely December will be the lowest. But it kind of makes sense because we only worked 14 days in November. And in December, I'm only working 12 days because we got that snow day and then we're off for 2 weeks from the 21st to the 6th. So the office is closed for 6 whole weeks, which is, sorry, not 6 weeks. That would be crazy. 2 weeks. We're closed for that Christmas week and that New Year's week, which is really nice for team morale and everyone being with their families and getting to kind of reset and enjoy the holidays and just being in good spirits and not feeling overworked. So I love that. And I think it reflects very well back into the team and into our success as an office. But that makes sense where September and October each had almost 20 working days. So of course I'm going to earn more when I'm working significantly more days. But that's been a bit of an adjustment with November earning a lot less. And financially, that's something I want to mention to prepare for as you're going to go into working as a dentist is likely you're not going to have a fixed income. So it's important to budget accordingly. You may have a salary if you work in public health, or if you're an owner doctor or a partner owner, then you're probably going to have a set salary. But with the ownership partnership model, usually you set your salary at kind of the industry standard lowest end of whatever the averages are. And then your fluctuating income is going to come from the profit sharing or the business profits. So really, it's kind of the same thing as me as an associate, where your final take-home income is very, very variable in dentistry. So that's just more of a reason and reminder to very much live reasonably and live below your means of like your higher earning months, because then when you have good months, you can take it as a chance to make financial investments and moves towards your saving goals. And don't set your budget at your highest end income potential, because if I was doing that, I would be in very deep trouble this month and next month with earning less.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
Every day, supporters like you help the American Cancer Society improve the lives of people with cancer. Help end cancer as we know it for everyone. Visit cancer.org to make a life-saving gift.
And another thing going into the new year that I'm really looking forward to is at the start of January, so that January 6th, I believe, the Monday, we have the entire first half of the day blocked off, no patient care, because we use that for intense team building. We use it for excitement and celebration and honesty and vulnerability and planning for the year and working with our coaches, working with ourselves, and a lot of team building and making sure we're going to have the best year yet, really laying everything out. I haven't gone to one of these meetings yet since I started back in June, but I kind of know that's what's upcoming, and I'm really looking forward to it because I know it's going to get me super psyched up for the year ahead, and also probably clarify some things of what I'm wondering how things are going to look in 2025. And that's what I actually wanted to talk about next, was like work structure updates, because I've mentioned before that we have 4 doctors in the office, including myself. And starting back in September 1st, the owner doctor started taking Tuesdays off so that I could have 2 columns. So a production column and an assistant column. But honestly, even though he's not there anymore on Tuesdays, it's still not really happening to the full extent of me having 2 columns. I still have my production column, which is always full pretty much, but the assistant column, where I should still be getting some production or seeing limit-ins and things, hasn't filled up, I'm basically still sharing it with the other associate because either patients want to see that other doctor or there just hasn't been enough demand for like my scope of practice yet, I guess, but that's fine. But just being transparent that that's something we started to try to do, but it's not really coming to fruition yet. And then the second doctor who I share with on those Tuesdays is also planning on phasing out, so stopping working next year. We haven't really nailed down a specific date for her yet, so we're just going to kind of see how all of that plays out and what that's going to look like in terms of my schedule filling up. But currently, we have 4 doctors, but each day there's only 3 of us. So I'm there Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and all those days there's only 2 other doctors there with me. But eventually on Tuesdays, I believe the plan is that there's just going to be 2 of us there. So then I'd be seeing an even larger patient volume, I would think. And I'm currently really taking on the owner doctor's general dentistry restorative schedule. But the plan is that I'm going to be absorbing both of those doctors' general dentistry restorative schedule. And the owner is going to be doing sleep TMJ completely. And if you're wondering, when I say owner or boss, Dr. Chad, I did a podcast with him a couple weeks ago, and then I have another one coming out next month that's even deeper dive, like a 40-minute, really, really amazing episode that I'm really excited for all of you to get to listen to because he has so much wisdom. I can't even put it into words how much I learned from him and admire the way that he operates as a clinician and a communicator and a leader, but also in his own personal life. So I really hope you all will listen to that and check out the one from a couple weeks ago. That's a quicker snippet, only 15 minutes, about kind of how our office operates. But the next one is more of a deep dive into him as an individual person and clinician. And I'm even going to be taking on next year a little bit more restorative work from the third doctor who does all of the full mouth cases. As he's leaning into filling his schedule more with those, I can take on even some of his patients' more simple work. And in 2025, I just think it's going to be interesting to keep updating you all on how that evolves because you can see there's a lot of opportunity there to continue growing. And I don't say any of this with any complaints, really. I know I'm saying things could be more full. I definitely have a lot of downtime and I could be busier, but I don't really have any complaints because it's been such a natural progression and nothing's been really forced throughout the ramp up. And I'm still very satisfied with the flow of my days. I'm appreciating that it's not very draining, it's not very stressful, and I'm still earning a good living. So I'm just kind of embracing the stages as they come, but I'm interested to see what 25 will have in store for me. And my personal goal, if you're curious, everyone loves to hear about dollars to produce, would be enough to net, so that's after taxes, $20,000 per month. So that's $240,000 per year net, which is about $375,000 gross, which I'm aware is a lot of money. And that would be, in order to be paid $375,000, I would need to produce about $90,000 per month, which is a lot. But there's also, like, sneak peek, like a lot of dentists do that. Maybe a lot isn't the right word, but dentists do that. I see it in a lot of the Facebook groups I'm in. I hear about it from people. Like, it's a huge number, but it's very much possible. But let's just say I am not even close to that yet. My best month, though, was just under 70,000, which I'm very proud of. So there's definitely potential there to get to that goal of 90K, but that last 20K is very significant. That is a lot of money. Every 20K is a lot of money, a lot of procedures, a lot of higher value days that need to happen, and bigger cases that I need to communicate well to get scheduled. So it's not to say just because I was close that I'm going to get there really quick, but I'll let you all know when I get there. And I do still feel very grateful for where I'm at. I'm not setting that goal just because it sounds like a cool number. My boss has a really great perspective for looking at the dollar amounts. And I don't say this numbers when I share my own numbers or if I share the office's numbers to be too personal or to be bragging. But I love how he says it is that the dollars going up and our collection goals as an office, those dollars are people helped, people's lives improved, the amount of health that we have put back into our community, the amount of people served. So the dollars don't need to feel vain or dirty. It means that we're reaching more people and we're changing more lives. More bigger value cases is not overselling. It's getting someone to fully commit to a transformation to improve their life instead of fixing each little thing when it breaks and always having something new break each year after year because they're not addressing the root cause. So getting those bigger case closes and getting those bigger dollars month to month towards our office goals, which our office goals are very different than my personal goals that I'm sharing because the office goals are between the whole team, the hygiene, the doctors, and that's always based on collections because that's how a business makes money. I just happen to be paid on productions. That's why I set my own goals based on production. But overall, in that regard, I'm extremely, extremely grateful for where I'm at, and I recognize the growth and successes that I've had. But you're always striving to get better. I'm grateful that I'm 6 months out of work and I'm well on track to be above the average earnings for a dentist in Michigan. And in my first year out of practice, I'm very grateful for all of that. So that's kind of where things are at in that regard. But that does lead me to one more point of gratitude I just have to share about work before we transition into a little bit more of the personal life check-in things is I just can't express how amazing it is to work with the range of doctors that I do with such deep knowledge in different areas, because I get to see how we truly, truly transform people's lives from the little babies with trouble feeding or speaking, doing the tongue tie releases that one of the dentists does, or the adults with the broken down teeth that maybe overcame addiction or had different trauma. And now they're able to leave with the same day smile transformation. Now they can eat again. They can talk well again. They have so much more confidence. They take their health more seriously. And not only are their teeth better, but once they come in for their check-ins months and months later, they've lost weight. They've got a new job. They're just a happier, more confident person. That is so cool to see. And same thing goes for the other doctor who's working more with the pain and sleep. These people with chronic pain or people that have never, ever been able to sleep well and actually wake up feeling well rested, getting to see Dr. Chad for sleep or TMJ treatment and transforming their lives. It's just truly so incredible to get to see and learn from, and to be able to internally refer the patient's cases as I'm working on them and really trying to see everyone get as healthy as possible is not something I'd be able to do in every type of practice setting by any means. There's been many patient cases where I would have been stumped without the other doctors to share their experiences of similar cases and give me some guidance, or people with chronic pain that I would have just felt kind of hopeless of, I don't know what to do. Obviously, I could have referred them to some kind of oral pain specialist, but there's not a lot around, to be honest. And I feel very lucky to have someone in our office. And then even Dr. Chad sometimes refers to a colleague who has even more niche specific skill set too. So like even him, in my eyes, being an expert, has another level of expert that sometimes he works with. So overall, just saying I'm so grateful for where I'm at, and I couldn't be happier in that regard. And I'm so excited to see where my own career continues to develop as I figure out my passions and interests and go through that process. Okay, this has been literally the longest episode ever, but I hope you all enjoyed everything. I was going to talk about some of my like savings goals, check-ins, and like life updates, but there's not much to say there. Basically, as you can infer from everything I've said in this episode, I am in an incredibly good period of my life, and I'm so grateful for that. It feels so hard to put into words how nice it is to go from dental school into such a positive first job and potentially, who knows, maybe last job, and be building a life that I love and surrounded by family not too far away. We don't live by our family, but they're close enough where we can see them on weekends and things. And making new friends out here, hopefully in the new year. Just so much to kind of look forward to and that I'm grateful for. And I love the opportunity to share that with you all. And I can't wait to continue that into the new year. We will be having a New Year podcast coming up in a couple weeks where I'll share my reflections on the goals that I had for my personal life in 2024 and what goals I'm setting for 2025. So make sure that you listen when that one comes out. And with all that being said, I will talk to you next Monday.